I went with him, took him to the hospital, went back for an evaluation and the legal right to be a representative for the company, blah, blah, blah. The doctor's telling him, we did the scan, here it is. Show me there is no damage. No, it's bad, it's swollen. Finally, the doctor was just, he looks at me and he goes, look at his two knees. His one's swollen. And I was just like, I'm no doctor, but it doesn't look swollen to me. He goes, there is no swelling, we would see it. This guy had the doctors literally explain there was no injury to his knee. He gave them, got a settlement. We were forced to hire him. I had my secretary get to the office earlier. I told him, you come into my office, don't go on the plant floor. He came out on the plant floor. Luckily, we had cameras everywhere. I told him I was letting it go. And then he told me immediately, I hurt my knee again. I tried pushing a cart. I already looked at the film. I didn't start talking to him when I got into that office. This guy did it again. And what did the state do? Got a settlement out of the deal. This guy was doing this routinely, yet we had witnesses, many witnesses in this small town. It's a small town, a couple thousand people that would see him going running, playing soccer, doing these other things, but he couldn't work. They learned to game the system. And it's not immigrants, it's people in general that can learn to game the system, and others that have a genuine issue can't get help, can't get disability, and it's how they learn to game it, I have no idea. But there's a lot of changes that need to happen. I don't know who's just talking about Doge, but there needs to be receipts. There has to be, and if there's not, there's just no, I'm sorry. Doctors are saying this isn't happening. This is just, we got to start doing a better job all the way around.
I can't wait for AI and robotics to replace some of these jobs. So then the people that say that, Americans don't want to pay, more for their food. Okay, great. We'll get them lower cost, but it's going to cost jobs.
Absolutely. In the dairy industry, we'll just look at that one. The buildings that we built, very different. Used to have they had big carousels is how they first did it. The cows walk in, they get their little food, they get milk. It's a great little system, right? But now, it's all in ear tags. The cow can try to walk back in again. It doesn't get its treats. It doesn't get milked again. But they literally have, it looks like a little mini car wash. Comes up, washes the udders. The cow walks in, it pushes the cow out. Guess what? Next cow comes in, and they want to be in there getting milk because they get a little treat. And it is 100% automated. You do not need anybody there. And as you get to watch the systems, they're there. And they keep people employed to keep people employed. Yes, and sometimes you don't have that initial big investment. But in the long run, you're right. The jobs are gone. When they wanted to raise minimum wage, I remember when that first came up, they wanted to raise minimum wage to like $15 an hour. And when that push came, there was some meeting of a bunch of all the fast food industry people was in Europe. They put out on the news a little video of from freezer to customer, completely delivered, their burger, their order, everything without a single person there. And what's the difference? The pickle's placed in exactly the right place every time. There's exactly 0.45 ounces of mustard. There's exactly whatever of ketchup. Everything's the same. The consistency is there. Why did they put that out? You can raise the wage. Go ahead and raise the wages. Our bottom line is we're here to make money. And if we can't make money, we'll go to automation. It's either jobs, or whatever. But you look at the people. If you look at the people that are most affected by raising minimum wage, it's low-income earners. As a matter of fact, in the fast food industry, single black mothers were the #1 most impacted people to lose their job because of that wage hike. But we want to ignore those little facts when we talk about, hey, someone's out there really grinding, trying to make it. Well, I had a guy who was going to lose all his, he came to me and he said he's going to have to put in his 2 weeks. I was like, why? We're working like 72 hours a week. Well, yeah, he had 4 kids. He had help, for assistance for, he had SNAP or whatever, the food assistance he had, living in the insurance. Well, by the time it all came said and done, what he was going to end up paying, once he lost everything, he was going to be making, without figuring in time and a half, just straight up on it, $3 an hour. He's killing himself for that wage. So instead of finding a system that helps people get on their feet, and maybe it weans them off of the system, so to speak, so they can build up a savings account, maybe we put some accountability liabilities in. No, we just cut it. So what's the best option to do? I just gonna have to quit my job. And until we decide we have to come up with a better means. So what if we have to pay them for a little while to help build up that safety net, to help get a savings account, an emergency fund? I would much rather do that than say live on the system continually. Politicians never look at that. Why? Because they've never dealt with it. They haven't had an employee that wanted to dig himself out from the bottom. You could see the emotion in his eyes, the tears in his eyes welling up when I couldn't help solve it. I said, we'll be fine. I'll work this out for you. No, the numbers don't work.
Are you daft? Billionaires live off the system every fucking day of our lives. I don't understand why you're
We're not talking about billionaires that fuck the system.
Wait, hold on. While Nita is for a second, I'm going to help you out here. Corey, you were done speaking. He piped
The
in,
only fucking
and,
person there not
we
on the
hear what he has to say without interrupting him. There's this weird tendency that people have on this app where it's like if somebody challenges them, they're very quick to do the pushback. Let's get his complete thought out, which is probably going to be stupid, and then you can go ahead and respond. Go ahead.
It was just that, responding to a stupid statement. Yeah, you're right. It's probably going to sound stupid what I have to say. Stupid is as stupid does, right? Point.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, Water, your evidence that millionaires live off the system is that stupid is as stupid does. Is that accurate?
My response to you is stupid is as stupid does the fact that you're complaining about the poor living off of the system, while we have the rich hemorrhaging this country, funding the wars, not fighting them. It doesn't make any sense.
Water, I don't know what conversation you're talking about, but I never even alluded to that. That was other people talking. I simply listened to your comment, which you said the prior speaker was stupid. Then you stated, we all know that millionaires live off the system, and you were interrupted. Roger then told the gentleman not to interrupt you, give you an opportunity to get your point out, which is probably stupid. And all I've heard you say so far to back up that millionaires live off the system is stupid does. Maybe you have some other specific reasons why you think millionaires live off the system. I'd love to.
No, you assuming my answer ahead of time and speaking for me is what I was responding to. So, without the narrative, simply put, universal basic income is necessary to get out of this mess.
All right. Let's concentrate on that. Everybody in the country should be paid exactly the same wage. That's how hang on. That's how I define a universal income. So, if you were president, if you had your hand on the button, how much money should each person get? No more, no less.
For starters, yes, that's right. Without it, all the other benefits included, everybody still receives your benefits. $4,000 minimum.
So you're saying you're minimum
Americans,
every
and then all one woman, and then all veterans gets bumped up to $8,000. This is for starters. We don't know where the economy is going to be in the next year, not even the next 5 years, let alone 5 or 10, but we must address it as the inflation comes at us, because
Wait, hold on.
Hold on, one more.
Water, I got a question.
Hold on. It's come at us in full force as automation is already here. So
Water, I have a question for you.
I understand you have a question. I still have to
let me ask you one question first. Your thoughts enough. Just a follow-up question. Since you endorsed that, how much more would you be willing to pay each year in your tax dollars to make that happen? How much would you be willing?
As much as need be.
Okay, got it.
Go ahead, Mo.
Yeah, Water, I have a question for you. You started this before you went into the UBI thing that you probably don't even understand. What I want to ask you is, you made the comment that millionaires live off the system. What do you think, how much tax revenue out of all of the tax dollars that the federal government collects, how much do you think, what percentage is collected from the top 1%?
Billionaires don't collect taxes. They get
No, hold on, Water. But listen
No, you're
to my
not
question.
leading me.
No, hold on.
No, you're not
Listen
leading
to
me.
my question. Listen to my question. I'll say it in
I already
English this
heard
time.
it. I already heard it.
Oh, well, no, but well, then you weren't responding to it.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You gotta ask something that makes sense.
I'm gonna ask you a question, and you can either say, you can either answer it if you know the information, or you can make up an answer. That's what most people on Clubhouse do. Or you can simply say, I don't know, which is probably the smartest thing to do. Hold on, hey, hold on. I'm gonna ask you a question. This is not gonna bode well for you. So he left. He left.
Damn it, I had two major questions, Roger. Stop scaring people away.
So the reason he left was because he was going to be asked a question. These retards, they don't like to be asked a question, but I'll answer my own question here, just so you guys can understand this. This is why people like him are just fucking retarded. 46% of federal income tax revenue comes from the top 1% earners in the country. So let me repeat that. 46% of all of the federal income tax that's collected comes from the top 1%. Okay? So this myth that the top income earners don't contribute, the 1% are contributing 46%. If we expand that to the top 5%, it equates to 59% of the overall income tax dollars collected. If we expand it to the top 10%, it accounts for 70% of income tax dollars federally collected. So let's just do the math here. This means that 10 out of 100 people are funding 70% of the federal budget. So again, I've given this example before. Let's just say 10 people went to dinner. This would be the equivalent of one person raising their hand and saying, hey, this would be the 10%, right? 1 out of the 10 would say, hey, I will pick up 70% of the dinner tab for all 10 of us. And the rest of you, the 9 of you, you only have to pay for the 30% that's left over. And yet you have people like Water that want to come on these stages and say that the high income earners are not paying their fair share. It's quite literally the opposite. In fact, you have large percentages of this country that don't contribute at all. They don't contribute a fucking dime. They are a drain on the fucking system. Not a bigger drain on the system than printing money and running us into debt, but they are a fucking drain on the system. Not as big of a drain as the fucking as the Fed, but they are a drain on the system. So I wish you would get people that would come up here and have an honest conversation about this, but it's hard to do because once you start throwing facts and figures, the people that advocate for these stupid ass ideas, they crumble.
Roger, this was never more apparent to me and moved to the Miami area. The client has the neighbor, their house. They pay over $200,000 a year in taxes. They had never seen them. They have a staff maintaining it. They're inputting into an area that they might use once every 2 or 3 years. They're paying into a school system that they don't utilize. We have people who have 3 to 4 properties in one, and I'm talking multi-million-dollar condos in one building, and then they got them in other buildings. And to say they're not paying their fair share, they're paying more in one house in property taxes that they don't live in that most people will pay in a lifetime.
Yes. Corey, let me ask you this. If you were at that dinner of 10 people, and let's say the top income earner picked up 70% of the bill, and you were one of the 9 that had to pick up the 30%, what would you say to the person that paid the 70%? Because what progressives would say is, hey, you got all the money, you should pay for the whole thing. That's what they would say. But what would you say to the person that at a 10-person dinner picked up 70% of the?
Me, even though I'm not in his category, I would say, let me pay for a little more than that. I'm sorry, but I would.
Well,
I,
no.
thank you is the
Yeah, those were the two words you were looking for. You would simply say thank you, because the fact is that the majority of Americans, have the comfort in their lives that they do because of people that are wealthier than them.
You know, like you're saying, when you look at the people, the top taxpayers, they always want to complain about big oil. Well, they don't pay an equal percentage. No, they don't. But if you look at the amount that they pay, their profit is they make less on a gallon of gas than our government does. But guess what? It's a product that is in every system we use. The paint on the curb, the finish on your furniture,